Hello everybody and welcome once again to the RDL show. I want to begin the video with an apology. I know, it's not great to start with an apology, especially when I'm apologizing for stuff out of my control, but I do think it's a little necessary. Because of time with my son during the summer holidays, followed by getting really fucking sick, I've had to completely skip the week 5 review, which totally sucks. Feels like the season is kind of incomplete without it. And this video also doesn't really have my usual wit and charm, because I am still recovering, but I've done my best with the tools available. Such is life, I guess, and I hope you all enjoy the show. Let's quickly start with the week 5 results that we missed. New York Latios 1, Down Under Drop Bears 2. Golden Gate Goldango 2, Berserk Flyers 1, Denver Dark Rise 2, Sandaconda Squad 1, Newcastle Needy Kings vs Durham Drug Algaes, match postponed. Sky Strikers 0, Los Angeles Latias 2, Orlando Oshawotts 2, Blazing Brelooms 0, Gothenburg Gothitels 2, Welsh Woobats 1. In week 5, the Oshawotts and the Latias maintained their stranglehold atop the table, with LA ending the Sky Strikers' unbeaten start in the process. Meanwhile, surging Denver Dark Rise followed up week 4's shock win over the Drop Bears with another hard-fought victory over the playoff-bound Sandaconda squad. Elsewhere, a win for the Drop Bears kept them in the playoff contention, while the Gothitels' victory over your Welsh Woobats put them firmly into the playoff hunt. Now, on to week 6, and this is going to get interesting. First of all, we have 2 new coaches. So, everyone, please join me in welcoming Amaranthian Skies, who has acquired the Indianapolis Mud Brace and rebranded to become Former Party. Coach number 2 is Ryder, who has acquired the Newcastle Needy Kings, and they have become the Berserk Flyers. Week 5 into week 6 was the trade deadline, and the last chance for coaches to tweak their roster to maintain playoff status or to make that final push to the top 8. A lot to get through, so let's get on with it. Let's start with yours truly throwing the content. Following the week 4 defeat to the Brazen Brelooms, the Welsh Woobats traded Mesprit for Gengar and Mabosstiff for Bramblegast. Mesprit hadn't really had the impact that I was looking for, and with Gardevoir providing so much more flexibility and also being a psychic type, it was difficult to include Mesprit a lot of the time. Gengar's ghost typing means it's immune to fake out, making it a much more versatile support than its predecessor. The interesting one, of course, is Bramblegast. It is such a good pairing with Tornadus, with it getting the +1 attack boost along with the speed from Tailwind. It can be a really dangerous mon. It's tricky to use because it's so frail, but being immune to moves like Icy Wind, Heat Wave, Blizzard, and those also giving it that additional +1, it's a risk worth taking. The Orlando Oshawotts traded away Scyther for Tropius. This makes a lot of sense, to be honest. Tropius gets some really nice boosts in the sun. The Oshawotts have Torkoal, yet another weapon added to a team full of nukes. Speaking of adding weapons to an already overloaded armory, the LA Latias released Morgrem to acquire Espeon. Now, I don't think Morgrem had been brought to a single matchup, so the pre-evolution prankster support obviously wasn't working. Espeon brings a lot of the tools that Morgrem had, but now with 130 base special attack and decent coverage. Scary. Golden Gate Goldengos made a rather weird trade. Initially trading Gotharita for Kanto Muck, only to immediately ship out the sludge for Sneasel. The process of getting there was a bit odd, but adding Fast Fake Out, Taunt and Icy Wind on a not terrible stat line, great move for an already great squad. The Gothitels hit in some very surprising moves, dropped the Mon that I thought had been one of their star performers in the early season, and a wall to acquire a more expensive wall and a less expensive damage dealer. They traded Hydreigon for Garganackle and Gastrodon for Uxie. So they essentially gained a lot more attacking versatility without losing the support. Looks odd on paper. Good trade in reality. Maybe a change in approach for the second half of the season? We'll have to wait and see. In what I can only assume was a matchup trade, damn you Tommy, the Denver Darkrai traded Pawmot for Iron Thorns right before their Week 7 match with the Woobats. Great trade. I hate you. In a bid to continue building momentum, the Blazing Brelooms made a massive triple trade. Went Cresselia, Talonflame, and Haunter. In came Murkrow, Thundurus Therian, and Mismagius. At first glance, this seems like an odd one, but digging deeper, it's overall a pretty good roster change. Cress is a fantastically versatile piece, and Talonflame is one of the best tailwind setters in the game. But, in my opinion, Murkrow is far better than Talonflame. So adding that and an amazing offensive weapon, plus great Urshifu support in Thundurus, you're getting a lot more power in the roster. Now, on taking over the teams, both Amaranth and Skies and Ryder were given 5 trades. Let's take a look at the squads. Coach Skies really overhauled the Indianapolis Mudbrays, trading out Doug Trio, Honchkrow, Raichu, Stonjourner, and Dragonite to bring in Gastrodon, Tauros, Toxtricity, Galarian Moltres, and the mascot of the team, Pawmot. The Mudbrays was already a pretty good team. This has now become a real threat to make a late push for the playoffs. Ryder wasted no time in putting their stamp on the roster, trading away Roaring Moon, Hatterene, Primeape, Goodra, and quite surprisingly Chi-Yu for Landorus Pelipper, Rotom Wash, Bronzong, and reacquiring Overquill. Not entirely sure about losing Chi-Yu, but overall I think that's added a lot more solid backbone to that squad. Before we got into week 6, we first had the catch-up match between the two new coaches, with the Berserk Flyers taking on Pawmot Party and Ryder emerging victorious 2-1. Now, let's get on with the week 6 results. New York Latias 2, Berserk Flyers 1, Down Under Drop Bears 1, Santa Connor Squad 2, Golden Gate Goldengos vs Durham Dragalges, match postponed. Denver Darkrai 2, Los Angeles Latias 1, Pawmot Party 2, Blazing Brelooms 1, Sky Strikers 2, Welsh Woobats 0, Orlando Washawats 0, Gothenburg Gothitels 2. Now let's dive into the matches, starting with the New York Latias versus the Berserk Flyers. It was a great match to watch. Very, very close. And the damage output from Landorus Therian is insane. To deal that much damage through a light screen in that game 1, just absolute madness. It's really hard to commentate and pick out key moments in this 3-match set because both coaches played so well across the 3 games. Down Under Drop Bears versus the Sandaconda squad. Game 1. Opted to lead Glastrier and then swapping in Basque Legion to block the superpower from Enamorus was a phenomenal play. I think the game-winning play here, though, was screeching Enamorus. That defense boost seemed so key to keeping her around and chipping away. Game 2. That turn 2 swap to eat the parting shot on Enamorus was amazing. Such a shame that it didn't work out. But Venomoth. What can we say about Venomoth? The fact that this thing was able to essentially 1v3 after a single quiver dance is incredible. And that followed on into game 3, where it really was a Venomoth carry. I have no idea how it lived that chestnut seed bomb, but wow. Sky Strikers versus the Woobats was, unfortunately, a straight beatdown. Woobats came in with a game plan, get Baxcalibur set up. But Ted, using all that experience, immediately shut it down in game 1. Ronin tried to mount a comeback in game 2, but was met with an absolute wall in that French Mega Snail. Revealing Brick Break a little early, probably a mistake. It did allow Ted to double into the Croak and finally set up the screens. In the end, there was simply too much bulk and pressure applied by Goodra and the threat of Cinderace in the back to go another turn without getting damage on it. Great prep, phenomenal positional play. But Ted ultimately won the day, solidifying their spot in the playoffs and probably pushing the Woobats out of contention. Denver Darkrai's versus the LA Latias. Game 1 was just so well played by Feathers. Having Pinchurchin play total support, setting the terrain, setting the weather, swap, when previously he'd been built fairly offensively, was just great prep, and it completely neutralized Articuno. Game 2, I wasn't sure about Tommy's Palafin adjustment here. It kind of made sense because of the rain, but Palafin ended up being great in the late game. So, what do I know? Rockslide misses really could have cost Tommy, which would have been so unfortunate because he played this game incredibly well. Game 3, fantastic game. Fantastic game. Could chew for Rigarath. I love this play because you see Farigarath there without the actual open team sheet. You automatically assume it's going to be Armatail. So it disincentivizes you from clicking priority moves when you absolutely could. Endgame, crazy. Crazy. The freeze on Palafin had me throwing my hands in the air. But immediately thawing. Oh, really rough on Feathers. To have the good luck straight away followed by the bad luck, heartbreaking. In the end, that early burn on Iron Hands probably won Tommy the match. Normally, in a Hands versus Palafin 1v1, I'd put my money on the bulk of Iron Hands winning out. But that burn, reducing its damage, was so key. Orlando Oshawotts versus the Gothenburg Gothitels. Game 1, I love this. Floppo stalled out that Trick Room really well. The crit on Frostmoth, though, absolutely turned the game. The Helping Hands boosted Bug Buzz that was coming out from that Frostmoth probably was going to KO Garganacl, given that it resisted Ice Beam from it earlier. Did 45%. Either way, really well played by both Fluffo and Otter. Such a close game. Shame to have it decided by a crit. Game 2, honestly, not sure what to say about this game. The switch up to bring Zapdos plus Rilla over Mimikyu and Uxie was really, really risky, but it paid off in such a big way. Garganacl getting that one shot on Frostmoth obviously really hurt Otter's game plan, but being able to cycle the terrain and fake out from Rilla with Heatran's damage output, bulk of Zapdos chipping away, so good. I'd love to have seen a game 3 from this set. Unfortunately, we were denied that, but across the 2 matches, Fluffo played unbelievably. Now, obviously, the shock of the week was the 2 undefeated teams both losing at the same time. And either of those 2 matches could have made game of the week, for sure. The Darkrai versus Latias set was absolutely incredible. But my game of the week this week goes to the debut of Palmot Party. I have to say, this guy's nickname game, totally on point. I have a feeling I'm going to have some amazing thumbnail and title content here. Chef's kiss. Game 1. That Sprinkles plus Conceit duo was just absolutely devastating. I don't think anyone saw that damage output coming. Game 2. Some phenomenal plays from both coaches here. Swapping in Gastrodon turn 1 to take that Surging Strikes and get the boost may have been obvious to some, but to me was still a really, really good play. Haze Murkrow, something I use quite a lot in the exact same way as Starstreak used it here. Not to get rid of the stat boost of the opposition, but to get rid of stat drops on your own mons. Great prep. Yawn Slowbro was such a menace throughout the entire game, but in the end, that Water Bear just did too much damage and closed out a really, really close game 2, bringing it to Blazing Breloom's very first game 3. But unfortunately for Starstreak, game 3 had an amazing game plan by Sky, which led to just blowout. There's absolutely nothing the Starstreak could do, thanks to the Worm and Queenly Majesty. Murkrow being unable to taunt the Don to stop Trick Room going up probably won Palmot Party the match turn 1. Overall, a really, really close 3-game set and a phenomenally exciting debut from Amaranth and Skies. Congratulations to both coaches. With 2 weeks left of the regular season, the defeats for the Oshawots and the Latias has really opened up things at the top of the table, with the top 5 plus the Goldengos with their 2 games in hand all in contention for those top seeds in the playoffs. Below them, anyone can still mathematically qualify for the playoffs, with 3 wins likely enough to book a spot. The running is going to be incredibly exciting. Stay tuned.